Welcome to NASPA Tonight. I'm your host, Josh Greenway. This is the weekly Facebook live show where we talk about all things Scrabble. We've got some news to get through tonight. We're going to be talking about Las Vegas and Scrabble. You may have seen a poll that we put out today. We're going to talk about all those results. We're going to talk about a few different headlines, some tournaments coming up. And yeah, that's what we're doing tonight. So let's get right down to business. The first thing that I want to do is I want to introduce my very special guest. Here he is all the way from the West Coast. This is the one, the only, David Pearl. David, how are you?
Josh, good to see you again. Long time no see.
Absolutely. So I want to tell everybody who you are, David. So David is an expert level Scrabble player who's been playing the game since 1997. He owns 3 divisional championships at the Nationals going back to 98, 2000, and 2004, winning divisions 4, 3, and 2. I believe that's correct. And taking those in 3 out of 4 nationals. So you were on quite a run back then. He achieved expert kind of rating in 2004, then maybe dropped back a little bit, and then pretty much since 2010 has been at 1800 or higher. He's relatively new to directing, although I know you directed a one-day back in 2012, but you've got 4 events under your belt, with last year doing your first multi-day for the Pacific Coast Open. Tonight we're going to be talking about Pacific Coast Open Part 2, which is going to happen in Vegas. We're going to talk about that in detail a little bit later. And David's day job is as a certified financial planner. He helps people reach their financial goals. How does that sound, David? Is that about right? What have I missed?
Very good summary.
Okay, very good. Here is what we're going to do. We are going to move directly into Scrabble headlines. So we've got some news items to talk about tonight. The first one, let me just get it set up here. We are going to talk about, I saw this on Facebook today, in Minnesota, specifically Eagan, Minnesota, police pulled over a man, I think, for driving while he was playing online Scrabble on his phone. Have you ever done that, David?
Well, I might be guilty of looking up words, but I don't play online Scrabble. This whole story kind of reminds me of the time the flight attendants asked Alec Baldwin to get off his Word for Friends, and he refused because he was compulsively addicted, like a lot of us, to Scrabble, and we all know how that ended up.
Absolutely, that's right. He got thrown off the plane. Well, for this guy, he gets the ticket there in Minnesota, and then social media starts having some fun with him, going back and forth with comments like "Thanks for enforcing the letter of the law," and his fine should be a triple score. So this is really a public service announcement that if you're driving around, just try to not to look at your Scrabble app. Okay, the next thing that I want to talk about is this actually goes back about 2.5 weeks ago in Ottawa, a tournament that I played. We actually did a show since then, and I sort of forgot to talk about this news item, which I can't believe. We had, who I like to call affectionately Dr. Ken Rubin out of New York City, scored a 744, which I believe is the 3rd highest individual game score ever in NASPA, and played against Patrick Delisle, who put up 450. And it's one of these boards that spiders out. You can see it there in the background.
Yeah.
And they set the highest combined score in a game ever with about, I think it's just shy of 1,200 points. David, what's the most points you've ever scored in a game?
think I had high 650s a couple of times, and I had a shot at 700.
And what
Yeah,
happened?
I missed my out bingo. It was when boil over was brand new in the dictionary, and I just saw overboil. So,
Oh, and it comes off.
and no, I played overboil, but boil over would have hit the triple triple and gotten me over 700.
Oh, damn.
So
So
you
you
need a
get
lot of
away
things
with a
to go
phony.
right.
You get away with a phony there.
No, it was a correct word. It just wasn't the
Oh,
new
I see.
word.
Both were
There
good.
was a new
Okay.
anagram of it.
I see. Gotcha. Okay. So anyway, big props to Ken Rubin. Now, because I was there at that tournament, I got a short interview with Ken who talks about this game. I also want to I want to thank everybody for watching. I see people are continuing to show up here on Facebook. If you want to throw your high score into the comments, that would be awesome. And in the meantime, let's take a look at this short clip of Dr. Ken talking about his 744.
Hey everyone, this is Ken Rubin here, letting you know that I scored 744 points in a tournament game here in Ottawa on day 3 of the Labor Day weekend tournament. My intrepid opponent was Patrick Delisle, my new good buddy who I met for the first time here. He scored 450 points, which I think is even more impressive than my 744. And we're told by the one and only Jackson Smiley that this is a record for combined tournament points scored, which is cool. And a few highlights from my end that I can give you. One was over here, a triple for 216 points that I scored. It's a lot of points to score, and it's kind of a normal word. Another highlight is taxpayer off of an open tee on a triple lane for about 100. Ironic because don't tell the authorities, but I'm still working on my 2018 taxes. But there are taxpayers out there, and I guess that's a good word to find. But anyway, it was a great game. What does it mean in the long run for any of us? Probably nothing. It just happened, and we go forward from here. But that's it. That's my story. Ottawa, 744 points, new record. Thanks for listening.
So there we go, Dr. Ken, everybody. Absolutely, 744. It's pretty incredible. Okay, now I want to talk about a new segment. This is going to be called Tournaments I Wish I Could Play. All right, so David, I'm going to ask you for a tournament in a minute. Basically, what this is a tournament that's coming up over the next couple of months or whatever. Something you've got your eye on for the calendar, or like an aspirational kind of scenario. So what we're going to do is I am going to start the tournament that I wish I was playing is in Battleboro, Vermont. Not only because this city or this town is named Battleboro, but Vermont is supposed to be absolutely beautiful. As you can see here in the picture, they're big on the fall colors, and the drive is supposed to be amazing down there. It's a relatively small tournament. I think there are 28 players signed up. It's a 2-day tournament. They split them up into 4 divisions. So relatively small divisions. But I bet that's going to be a lot of fun. And I see some friends that are going there. So, David, what is a tournament that you wish you were playing?
Well, Lake George has always been on my list. As a West Coaster, I've heard great things from attendees there. Very well-run tournament. And also when the leaves are changing color, great competition. So someday, when I get back there at that time of year, that'll be on my list too.
Absolutely. Well, I'm glad you mentioned Lake George. Let's take a quick look at where we are with Lake George. We're sitting at 122 players. The registration list continues to grow. We're now, I guess, just about 4 weeks away, maybe 4 weeks and a couple of days. So I would encourage everybody to check out Lake George. So, and all details are on Cross Tables. Now, while we're talking about tournaments, let's turn to Las Vegas, our lead story for tonight. So we're going to First, we're going to talk about the Pacific Coast Open Part 2. So why don't you tell us a little bit about last year's event and what you have planned for this year, David?
All right, so last year we had a nice kickoff event. It was only 15 games over 2 days, and I thought it went pretty well and smooth. We had, like all tournaments, a little temperature variation, but I got a lot of good feedback from it. And just like with Scrabble, you're hoping your next Scrabble tournament, even as a director or a player, is better. So I think we're making it better each time. So I don't want to be anchored to one spot. The first one went well in Orange County, and I had that in my back pocket, but I went to negotiate, and I found Las Vegas. The strip was not really practical, but I found some off-strip places that did want to work with a smaller group like us. And voila, we've got Pacific Coast Open 2 at Palace Station, the newly renovated Palace Station.
Right.
Just done almost $200 million in improvements. So it's not your father's Palace Station.
How far, when you talk about off-strip, how far off-strip is it?
Well, that's a good question, because in Vegas, it is a sprawl like Phoenix.
Yeah, for sure.
You can go miles and miles. I'm going to put this in the walking category. Okay. You could actually walk there. It's a few blocks away, or you can Uber to the strip, whatever you'd like. So for those that would like to go to some of the higher-end places, it's right there, point blank.
All right, very good. Now, tell me a little bit about your search, because I know for a tournament that I co-run in Kingston, I mean, I probably looked up every hotel in that place and called, me and my co-organizers called every single one. So what was it like doing that research for Vegas?
Well, I am very thorough, and it's a time-consuming process, but I quickly narrowed it down. It was becoming obvious that the strip is not going to be practical, because that would leave approximately zero for prize money, so we don't want that.
Right.
So that's why I was looking at off-strip places, and then I found that one that was close, but I also found about a half a dozen others. Most of the places will want us to buy a minimum food and beverage, but when you tack on 20% in tax, it becomes a lot. So the Palace Station really wanted us as a group, and it didn't hurt that I threw in that a lot of us are gamers. I know there's a lot of poker players in there, slot players, but they were willing to do the rental only if I guaranteed a certain amount of nights there. And it looks like it's going to be a very good turnout. I just put the roster up there, and we've already got both TWL and a Collins division going.
Okay, very good. So if you're interested in playing in Vegas, definitely check out Pacific Coast 2. Is that up on Cross Tables, David?
It just went up there on Cross Tables.
Okay, let's take a look at, speaking of Palace Station, let's take a look at some pictures here. You sent me these ahead of time. This looks like, dining room on the, probably just off the plane floor. What am I looking at here, David?
Okay, so you're looking at one of the top 10 oyster bars or seafood places in the United States. For some reason, and the locals go there a lot, at the oyster, if you're into oysters, but they also have crab. This is one of the 9 restaurants on site. There's also an Asian restaurant, a Mexican, so there's something for everybody right on site. And if you don't like what's on site, across the street there are more restaurants. So that was a big part of my search, was making sure there's a lot of dining options for our players.
Gotcha. So what am I looking at here? Here's the next picture that you sent me.
All right, so this is a sports bar with, it's kind of a modern where you can catch the game and watch things. So it's part of the modernization.
Gotcha. Oh, and here's an outside. I probably should have led with this picture. This looks very nice. Looks like there's a pool.
There's the pool. You're looking up at the hotel, obviously, at night, and not sure if this is the modernized building there. Before, right at the pool, there was the famous O.J. Simpson, where he was arrested, that whole debacle. That place, like most of the old tower places, have been raised, and everything there you're going to find is new. So
really? So this is the same hotel where... Yes. Oh, my God. That's amazing.
Where Orenthal was arrested.
Wow. Crazy. With the sports memorabilia, that place, right?
Right.
Wow. Crazy. Okay.
So it'll be a little colder in February, but the thing with Vegas is if you like good weather and you like gaming, you like fine dining, hiking, outdoor activities, this is the tournament for you. If you don't like any of those, then don't come. It's not your tournament.
Gotcha. Okay, and then finally we've got a very nice looking guest room. All these Vegas hotels are generally pretty nice when it comes to rooms. Anything in particular when it comes to rooms? How about a room rate?
Okay, room rates are $119 for that first Friday night, and then $169 for the Saturday night, and then $69 for the Sunday. Keep in mind, these are a little higher than normal. It is a holiday weekend, but it's much less than the Strip. They also have a $25 resort fee, which they all have, but that's $10 off the normal rate. So I don't mind if people come and have roommates, but it is better to stay on site because I have a little bit of a commuter fee there as well.
Yeah, gotcha. And sorry, you said that it was a holiday weekend, so tell us the dates.
Okay, so the dates of those will be February 15th, Friday,
Yeah.
16th, Saturday, and 17th on Monday.
Okay, there you go. So it's the same dates as over here on the East Coast for the Kingston Open, which I think is going to be our fourth one, something like that.
Right.
I can't
Wow.
believe
Time
how
flies. Yeah,
time
I hear
flies.
you do a great job with that tournament, Josh.
We're pretty happy with it. Okay, now what I want to do, thank you for that update, and I hope people check out that tournament. Let me get us here. Okay, so here's what I want to talk about next. Today, I put a poll up that that looked at basically it was if the NASC, if the North American Scrabble Championship came to Vegas and was in Vegas for the next 5 years in a row, how many Vegas NASCs would you attend? So I thought this was interesting. Here are the results here. So we had 44 people say they would attend all 5. Those would be the people who absolutely love the idea. They're all the way in. Then we had 36 people say, I would attend none of them, which, that's somewhat extreme.
Probably some geographical bias in there, which is understandable. Over half of the players are east of the Mississippi.
Well, and also, I think some of the people who said that they would go to all of them, they would be going anyway, no matter where it was. But then the inverse is true. So some of the people who said, for 5, if you look at them on cross tables, they haven't been to any in the last 5. Okay. So that sort of,
Yeah, that discounts that vote.
Yeah, both of them, I think, get discounted a little bit. And then we get people saying 1 out of 5, 3 out of 5, 2 out of 5, and 4 out of 5. So, but with a bunch of people only saying 1. So what brought on this poll was the idea that when it comes to the NASC, I mean, there have been challenges with the NASC. Number one, scheduling the thing. Obviously, a lot of work goes into getting the NASC together every year. And the last 2 years, we've had late announcements of the NASC. So the thought of either rotating between some, between regular venues, or putting all the going all in on one place for 5 years, those ideas have been kicked around a little bit. I have no insight into what the current planning is. I have no insight to what's going on with 2020. I hope there's going to be an announcement soon. I have a back of the napkin kind of deal with Art Moore that we're going to announce it on NASPA tonight, but I don't know when that's going to be. So we're going to promote that. Now, what I thought was interesting was anyway, that's what I came up with. Now, I had a couple people reach out to me personally and said, Ooh, what's going on here? Is that what's being negotiated? Are you floating a trial balloon to gauge reaction? And that is not true at all. Basically, I was having you on, David, and we were talking about Vegas. So I thought, oh, this is a way to put some more content into the show.
Sure.
All right, very good. Now let's go through some of the comments that people came up with, because I thought people had, you could see certain groupings of comments. So here was an early one. We got over 100 comments, I think, on this post.
I haven't seen any of them yet.
Yeah, well, you have to get in there. This will be a good recruiting pool in that group. You got to look at the people who said 5 out of 5 and go hit those people up, David.
Will do. I'll be sending an email blast out.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so here's Sam Kaplan. Sam says, I think this is definitely an interesting idea because there would be less thinking every year and more what could we do once we already have a defined location for the next 5 years. And I think that's one of the primary arguments for taking a strategy like this.
And I think if I can add something, it's more beyond thinking. There's a tremendous amount of time just with you and I going to secure spaces and talking to so many places and looking at all the possibilities of a smaller regional tournament. Imagine when you're at the liability or you're on the hook for 300 to 500 people.
Yeah.
And so there's to send somebody out there every year or to all those places. It's a lot of time and money. So there's certain economies of scale. If you can get maybe, well, you came up with a good arbitrary number of 5, but even 2 to 4 of these places, 2 to 4 years at a time block. And I think we've done this before. And that would really cut down our costs. And like Sam was saying in his comment here, put more focus on the current event.
I couldn't agree more. And given that we have very limited paid staff and then mostly volunteers, certainly thinking about the economy of effort, I think is a good thing to think about. Here's another kind of pro Vegas sentiment, and that's and first of all, thank you, Sam. Sam, I think, is pretty sharp. I like the way he framed up that argument. Ken A comes right in and says the flights are crazy cheap and almost always direct from even the smallest towns in the country.
Point.
For sure. Las Vegas is, I did the research because somebody talked in the comments about Vegas's sort of gambling reputation and Sin City and all that kind of stuff. So I looked it up. Vegas is the number 7 tourist destination in the States. I think number 1 is New York City with about 60 million people visiting there every year.
And I think it's going to go up a lot more. They now have a successful professional hockey team.
Yes.
And I'm a long-suffering Raiders fan for 20 years. But a part of your hotel taxes are going to fund that beautiful $1.8 billion stadium, one of the nicest in the country.
That's right. Are you happy or sad about Antonio Brown?
It is what it is.
Okay, all right.
The Patriots can deal with him now.
That's right. Okay, so Ken A bangs on here about the flights. Thank you, Ken A. Now, let me get the next comment up here. We have feedback from Shelly Stevens, who says, how about a city that isn't in the middle of the desert in summer? How about that? So that was a lot of fun. Got some reactions there. Certainly July and August in Vegas. The first time I ever went to Vegas was in the mid-90s, and it was in August. And I remember walking out of the airport, and it was the same feeling I got as opening an oven.
An oven?
Yeah.
Right,
exactly.
okay, yeah. We used to go every year as kids with our family, so that's what it was like, because we grew up near the beach here.
Yeah.
But to her point, yeah, fortunately we don't play Scrabble outdoors. I don't think it's an outdoor sport. But Vegas is kind of like Phoenix in that it's a lot cheaper in the summer, so you get those cheaper hotel rooms, which is a draw for a lot of the players, especially the younger players.
That's right. I always say to my friends who don't play Scrabble, basically, wherever you want to go, pick the worst weather, and that's where we go to play Scrabble there. So you want to go to Atlantic City, you're going in January. If you want to go to Vegas, you're going in August. Although now you're offering the much more temperate Vegas in February. Now, let's go to the next comment here. Now, this was a popular sentiment for sure. This is Lisa Lovelace. I don't think I know Lisa, but Lisa says that she prefers the region of the tournament changes every year. She loved Fort Wayne, and absolutely, Fort Wheezy was an awesome Nationals. I was really happy with that one. That was the last one that I played before I started working at Nationals. So what do you think about this? A big question is, what is the value we provide players by moving this thing around every year?
A lot of people they use Nationals as a nice excuse or a supplement to their vacation every year to go to a part of the country that they haven't seen. So I can totally see that side of the perspective as well. On the other hand, it is good economies of scale to lock down a place for 2 or 3 or 4 years at a time. So maybe we can have the best of both and have a place for 2 or 3 or 4 years and then keep shifting it there. So we don't have this musical chairs of late tournament announcements for the NASC, and what happened last year was not optimal or desirable, conflicting with another event.
Absolutely. Okay, why don't we come back to that in a second? Let's take a look at the next comment. Thank you to Lisa. Here's Mad Palazzo, who says 0, as in she would go to 0 of these events, which I actually don't believe. But then she says too expensive, and who wants to go to the same place all the time? So what do you think about the wear-out factor?
That is a real concern, especially from people east of the Mississippi. They've had Vegas events in the past, but not for the last 3.5 years. So I noticed over that time the attendance gradually decreased during that time. So there is that risk of a wear-out factor, which is why I think 2 to 3 years, 4 might be too much. So that's a possibility, and I could see her point of view as well.
Yeah, for sure. And when it comes to the like, I hear you. You're talking about the January events that were run by Dan Horowitz or Sam Kay.
Right, and Ross Brown, Big Brown.
Big Brown. I don't know why you have a nickname of Big Brown, but
it's
for Ross.
Horse racing.
Oh, I see. Okay, horse racing. So actually, the first tournament I ever did in the States was one of those Vegas tournaments, and I absolutely loved it. Here comes, thank you, Mad. Here comes the next statement here. Ella Sobel says, I like the variety of different locations. It would be nice to see a Canadian destination as well. So this is one that... Go ahead.
So this is a topic that's come up many times in Facebook threads, and I think the powers that be find it's more difficult for American, even though I have a passport, that's fine. It's more difficult for all the American players to get passports to go to Canada than vice versa. There's no reason why it shouldn't happen, but I just think the attendance would be a lot less if we did do a Canadian city just because of the passport issue.
Well, we'll see. I mean, the interesting thing is you actually don't need a passport, but you do need an enhanced form of ID. You can get across with an enhanced driver's license, although I don't know if you can fly. You probably need a passport if you're going to fly. So things may be changing, because one of the questions that gets asked in the NASC survey every year, and we may go through those results. I've seen the results just in the last couple of days. We may do that on NASPA Tonight at some point, is run through some of those survey results. But there's a question that says, if the Nationals was held in this region, right, and it'd be like West Coast, South, Northeast, Canada, Midwest, how likely would it be that you would not attend? So it's a negative option question.
Negative response question, okay.
Yeah, and actually Canada certainly does not score the worst. So I found that really interesting, and maybe we'll go through those results one day. So there we go. Okay, so and
It's like in politics, we're never going to please everybody on both, all the sides of it. So, it's up to the executive and committee, and also I think they have a tournament committee as well.
yeah, well, and there's and thank you to Ella for that feedback there. There's the championship committee. Those are the ones who are, okay. But the championship committee is basically the executive committee plus Art Moore, and I don't even know if anyone else is on there. And also in the comments, thank you, Portia, for clarifying passport by air, enhanced driver's license by land. Okay, I wanted to touch on this past year's. Obviously, Reno, it was late to announce. There was a conflict with the World Cup, which was unfortunate. We saw a number of NASPA players choose the one event over the other, including, am I right about this? Including you, David. Is that true?
That is correct. As a Californian, I've been to Reno many times, yes. So it wasn't anything special for me. It's a lot more boring than Vegas. Vegas, it's almost impossible to be bored there. Right. But I'd never been to Miami or South Beach, and then I wanted to do the whole tourist thing and combine that with, visiting some friends that I wouldn't see. And hopefully we don't have that unfortunate overlap situation again, and we can have two separate events.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't think we're going to have it again anytime soon, even though 2020 hasn't been announced. The World Cup has announced theirs. It's actually going to be an issue because it's the same weekend as July 4. Not that it's going to be an issue, but people are going to have to decide between those two events if they're looking to play on that holiday weekend. Right. Yeah, it's definitely a concern. I mean, my concern is I hate the idea that it's sort of the idea of it being normalized to choose between those two events based on whatever city it happens to be in or whatever, because we want people to come to the NASC. Anyway, I thought I'd put you on the...
Josh, if we have the 2 or 3 years in advance, the economies of scale, everything worked out, much less risk of this happening.
Exactly. Very good. So that's going to do it for our Vegas coverage here. I want everybody to check out David's tournament. I don't know if the Nationals is going to Vegas. I don't know when 2020 Nationals is going to be announced. I have a feeling it's coming, though. I just feel it, but I don't have any inside information. I want to thank everybody tonight for tuning in, for watching. I want to thank my guest, David Pearl. David, thanks for being on the show. I hope you had a good time.
Me, Josh. Always a pleasure.
All right. So we'll be back with a new episode of NASPA Tonight. All new topics, new guests. That'll be in 2 weeks. We're now on an every other week schedule. And as I tell everyone every time we're on the air, support your local directors. They're working hard for you. Okay, David, let's wave goodbye to the people. And
bye, everybody. We'll see you in Vegas or other tournaments.
There you go. We'll see you in Vegas, and we'll see you back on NASPA Tonight in 2 weeks. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.